I've been thinking for some protracted period of time, especially in the aftermath of the Abraham Accords, that there are foundational principles that unite Muslims, Jews, and Christians. They're all people of the book, for example, and they're all Abrahamic people. And those are the idea that all of our cultures are predicated on a book rather than a city, rather than the state, rather than a military power, rather than an empire. Like, that's a radical similarity. People of the book is a radical change with regard to, say, the Romans or the Greeks or the pagan empires. The fact that a book is the foundation of the culture, that's an unbelievably revolutionary notion. And then the books that guide all three of the major Abrahamic religions have marked similarities. One of them, as you pointed out, with regards to Islam and Christianity, is the centrality of Christ. Okay, so you said that was a big surprise to you, and I'm sure it's a surprise to many of the people that are listening. Well, then, where's the rub? Well, that's what you turn to right away. Christ is a central figure. Jesus is a central figure in the Islamic text, as he is in the Christian text, but there's doctrinal differences, which you zeroed in on right away. But one of the things that you were fleshing out, investigating, was the possibility that the doctrinal differences with regards to the circumstances of Christ's conception and birth were less at odds than might be if you were ultimately pessimistic, right? Because the question is, for me, look, in the Abraham Accords demonstrated that people of goodwill could circumvent the State Department and what would you say, accumulated doctrinal diplomatic wisdom that it was impossible to negotiate peace between the Arab world and the Israelis absent an agreement on Palestine, which was never going to happen because it's in the Iranians' best interest to keep the Palestine conflict with the Jews going on forever. And so that's a non-starter. And the Abraham Accords signatories just walked around that in quite a remarkable way. And I don't think that that's an accomplishment that's been heralded sufficiently. And I know that the people, particularly in the UAE, they've built that tri-faith complex, and they seem to be working towards a solution that's similar to the one that you're pursuing, which would be the idea that, well, maybe we should start with our commonalities and see what we could negotiate so that we could establish something approximating at least a lasting and cooperative peace, right, as opposed to continual warfare. Now, I was stunned, first of all, that the Abraham Accords were ever signed, but I was also more stunned that they held in the aftermath of October 7th. I know the Saudis backed off and everything got kind of quiet about Arab-Israeli cooperation, but the accords didn't fracture. And then more recently, I noticed that the UAE in particular, but also the Saudis, have taken steps to do something that the West is very loath to do, especially the UK, France, and Germany, which is to define radical Islam, right, Islamism, to set it outside the canonical Islamic doctrine and to oppose it. And the leaders in the UAE have called out Germany and England, or the UK in particular, for being weak in their opposition to Islamism, which the UAE and the Saudis don't regard as part of canonical Islamic tradition. If I got that, is that in accordance with how you...
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Are you tired of being held back by one-size-fits-all healthcare? Of having your concerns dismissed or being denied that comprehensive lab work you need to truly understand your health? I want to tell you about Marek Health, the premier health optimization platform that's revolutionizing how we approach wellness and longevity. What sets Marek apart isn't just their cutting-edge diagnostic labs or concierge health coaching, it's their commitment to treating you as an individual. Their expert clinical team stays at the forefront of medical research, creates personalized, evidence-based protocols that evolve with you. Unlike other services that rely on cookie-cutter solutions, Marek Health goes the extra mile. They consider your unique lifestyle, blood work, and goals to craft recommendations that actually work for you, whether that's through lifestyle modifications, supplementation, or prescription treatments. And with a remarkable 4.9 out of 5 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, you know you're in great hands. The best part is you can get 10% off your order today. Just head to miraculous.com and use code Peterson at checkout. That's miraculous.com, code Peterson for 10% off. Stop guessing and start optimizing your health today with Marek Health, because your best life starts with your best health.
And the Abrahamic Accords were not lauded anywhere near what they should have been. I was privileged to be in the gardens at the White House watching the signatories and working with North Sudan, where I visited 24 times, a Khartoum and the surroundings, to encourage them to participate, which they did, as did Morocco as well. So the Abrahamic Accords began to extend, and Saudi was, as you know, as you pointed out, were right on the edge of joining.
Yeah.
And then
Biden
October
scuttled that.
6th occurred, and what a convenient thing to happen at that timing. It was horrific. It's nothing less than an atrocious atrocity, but it was also well-timed.
Well, it seemed to me that the purpose of October 7th was to stop the Saudis from signing the Abraham Accords.
Well, that was one of the goals.
One of the
It was
goals,
Iran's goal, and there were others, but October 7th. And that's exactly why the timing was as it was.
Right. Well, and it met with some success, although the agreements didn't fragment. Okay, so now you have this epiphany, and so you were talking about going to Israel and speaking with the Palestinians,
Yes.
and you faced opposition from within your own party, especially on the neocon side, for having the temerity to propose such a thing. Okay, let's pick it up from there.
So loving enemies is not appreciated in politics. And this is, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but this is why Donald Trump is disdained by neoconservatives as well, because he talked to Kim Jong-un in his first term. He made friends with Putin. He's a master negotiator. As you've analyzed his psychology, I noticed on one of your blogs, which is fantastic, by the way. And I have a great respect for Donald Trump because his heart is, I believe, is for peace. And he talks repeatedly about all these young men dying and all the people dying. He talks about dying and killing repeatedly. So I believe he. That's why there's an opposition. He is a man of peace.
He's the strangest man of peace, eh?
Strange indeed.
Yeah.
Regardless what people say about his personality, his gruffness, his bluntness, his other characteristics that you pointed out in one of your excellent presentations, he's inside. And I have no inside knowledge of this, but I just believe from observation that he has this compassion.
Well, he also has a track record. I mean, when he was president, he led the West into 0 wars, right? And 0 is not very many. And so that was despite the fact that we were assured by his opposition that he was a warmonger and that it would be Trump that would be most, you could imagine him voted in high school as most likely to start World War III. And yet, when he became president, the fruits that his tree bore, let's say, were fruits of peace. And that was contradictory and strange given the combativeness of his personality. But, you know, one of the things we might always remind ourselves is that if we're not ourselves capable of promoting peace, let's say, in our own family, let alone at an international level, we might not be able to recognize a true peacemaker when one comes along. He's not necessarily going to look like you think, because if you knew how to do that, you'd do it. And so, okay, now Trump seems to be doing everything he can to bring
But he shouldn't be trifled with. That's the other side of Trump.
Right, but that might also be absolutely necessary, right? We don't know what the preconditions are for establishing peace. He obviously indicated to people like the dictator of North Korea that he could be communicated with, but not trifled with, right? And Trump does seem to have that paradoxical personality, which is, don't muck about with me, but if we don't have to go to war, then let's not, right? And so he tromps around like a bull in a china shop, and it's not obvious how much of that's necessary. But I really mean it's not obvious. None of that seems weak, right? And I think that was the position of someone like Biden, who would promote himself like Justin Trudeau does. And a lot of these good-thinking liberals, is they're the sort of people who, in their mouths butter wouldn't melt. They're such nice gentlemen, and nice has never seemed to me to be a particularly virtuous. Discriminating nice from weak is a difficult matter, and I don't think people make that mistake with Trump. Okay, so back to Palestine.